Hi, I'm Anthony.
And I'm Nicole.
And this is
Life with Twins.
On last week's episode, we talked about the beginning stages of in vitro fertilization. Nicole got the full embryo count. No, she didn't. Nicole did an egg retrieval is what happened. She did an egg retrieval and she had 43 eggs that were removed. Insane amount of eggs.
My body can produce eggs like no tomorrow, I guess.
After that point in time, the doctor took my seed, my sperm, and he manually inserted them into the different eggs. And after that point in time, you need to allow them some breathing room, some time to incubate. And if they reach it to day 5, that means they're fully fledged embryos. So last week we left you on a cliffhanger to find out how many of the 43 would become embryos. And so today, Nicole will let you know.
So, recap. Out of the 43 eggs, 33 were mature. Out of the 33 eggs that were mature, we got a call the next day saying that 32 of them were fertilized. 32 potential babies.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That was insane. So you go from your egg retrieval and then like figuring out how many eggs you're having, and then the next day you figure out how many are fertilized, and then you have to wait 4 more days to figure out how many made it to day 5 embryos. Now each doctor's office and facility has different protocols on where they want their embryos to go. For our facility, they only do frozen embryo transfers, and they do so with embryos that make it to day 5. So day 5 really does have the best success for transfers. So we didn't get reports in between. So we didn't get, some facilities will give you a day 3 report and a day 5 report. We only got a day 5 report. So we had to wait 4 whole days. Which you've literally invested your whole life into this. So 4 days feels like eternity waiting to see how many potential babies you have. So we got a call on day 5 at 9 a.m. in the morning. And it was amazing that they called me so early in the morning because I was going crazy. But let me tell you, the way that she delivered the information was very frustrating. I was like thinking to myself, lady, you really need to have your stuff together because my life is on the line and I am waiting for you to give me results and you are taking an eternity to spit it out. So she called me and she was, like, hi, this is so-and-so calling to tell you about your embryo results. And I was like, yeah, please tell me. And she goes, okay, so out of the 32 that fertilized, you have 2 embryos. And then we're watching 6 and 24 stopped growing. Wait. Never mind. Let me look at this again. Okay, out of the 32 that fertilized, yes, you have 2 embryos, but 24 we're looking at for tomorrow and 6 stopped growing. And I was like, lady, 6 and 24 is a big difference. 24 growing for tomorrow is amazing. 6 is a little less amazing. Yeah. Figure out how you're going to deliver this information. Literally, my heart is beating out of my chest. So while it was great news to know that we had 24 of them growing and could potentially have more embryos the next day, it was very disheartening to only have our 2 embryos on day 5. We really anticipated a lot more than that.
Yeah. After 32 fertilized?
Yeah, after 32 fertilized and it came down to 2. We knew that we were going to do genetic testing, and so we were very worried that if all of the ones for the next day were to stop growing and we only had these 2, that they would come back abnormal and we would walk away from this whole thing with no embryos. But fortunately, we only had to wait one more day to figure out the results. Again, I was going crazy trying to wait for their phone call. They didn't call me until like 11 o'clock that next day, and I was freaking out. But they finally called me. And again, it was a different lady, but it was like the same, like they put all the information on a sticky note and they don't really know what they're saying until they call you. And I just don't understand how people do that, because I feel like I rehearse everything I say before I even call somebody. But she called me and she was just like, okay, so you have 2 embryos and then you got 1 more and then 6 stopped growing. And so then you have 10. And I was just like, wait, I really don't understand what you're saying. Can you please repeat that again? Like,
in English.
Yeah. Basically, we had 2 embryos. And then the day that she called me, we actually got a 3rd embryo on that day, just a little bit later than the 2 that we already had. And then the following day, we got 7 embryos.
So we had a grand total of 10 for those of you trying to keep up with that math.
Yes. Because I was trying really hard to keep up with the math. I'm like, so 10 are frozen and 10 were biopsied.
And it frustrated Nicole so much about the way that she said it. She had to write it down word for word how the lady said it, because that's how upset she was at the whole situation.
I literally wrote it down word for word in my infertility journal.
Yeah.
Because I was so, how do you call somebody who literally has everything on the line and they're like, they've poured all of their heart, soul, emotion, money, finances, job, life into this, and you don't even know what you're saying. And it's not one time that they called him mix it up. It was like a few times that they called him mix up information. And I'm just like, so what is it? Just tell me the dirty and then go back and explain how we got there. Like, you have 10 embryos. This is how we got there. Instead of just... Anyways.
Needless to say, it was frustrating. But we actually had 10 embryos. One of the decisions that we decided to make was to do genetic testing with these embryos. And honestly, it was a decision that I would make again and again because of the 10 embryos that we did, what they're looking for is genetic abnormalities. Nicole can kind of attest to this, but a lot of times when it comes to a miscarriage, as in our first miscarriage, it tends to be caused by genetic abnormalities.
Chromosomal abnormalities.
Thank you.
So basically, they biopsy a piece of your embryo, and there's always a risk when they do that. But they take a piece of their embryo and they send it off to another company. For us, it was only an extra $2,000. So,
okay, we say that not as if we're rich, but in the grand scheme.
But in the grand scheme of everything that you're paying for IVF, I think our other bills came up to like $7,000-8,000. So it's like, well, if we can come up with $7,000-8,000, I think we can come up with an extra $2,000 to make sure that we're not putting in an embryo that's just going to lead to a miscarriage, like we had before. And so, some people, don't believe in getting them genetically tested. That's to each everybody's own decision. But
it was the right choice for us, definitely.
For us, we really felt like if we're, spending all this money, we would like to know if there was chromosomal abnormalities that would lead to a miscarriage. That would definitely lead to a miscarriage. Or if there are chromosomal abnormalities that would lead to like Down syndrome or whatever. We just wanted to be more prepared for those. And so they take a piece of your embryo, they send it off to another company, and they look at all the chromosomes and see how they match up. And then you also get to figure out the sexes of the embryos if you choose to. And it takes about 7 to 10 business days for you to get the results of that. So again, another waiting game that is very frustrating. But we were very, very happy that we decided to do that, because out of the 10 embryos that we sent for genetic testing, we got 2 that came back chromosomally normal. And oddly enough, the 2 that we sent off, or the 2 that came back chromosomally normal, were the first 2 that we got on day 5.
The ones that we were worried, we were so adamant because, even if that's not the right word, but we were just so kind of nervous, hurt, shocked because we only had those 2. Well, those 2 that ended up developing were our only healthy babies.
Yeah.
And
the ones that we're pregnant with right now.
Yeah.
So I just think that, is totally God working in his own way and giving us the ups and downs and testing us and, but out of everything, I just think it's absolutely crazy that the 2 that we got on day 5 were the 2
really
that
amazing.
were normal, and the 2 that we transferred.
So on next week's episode, why don't we look at trying to find the genetic testing that we did? We'll go more in detail about it if we can find that. We'll talk then about how we decided to put 2 in, the results or the percentages when it came to implantation and everything going forward till then. Does that sound?
Yeah. And then we can also talk about, I did a biopsy of my lining instead of doing a transfer right away.
Yeah. So we'll talk about all of that next week. But until then, please make sure you guys like, share, subscribe, and comment. And if you guys do subscribe to the video, make sure you hit that bell icon and click the little notifications so you guys are alerted whenever we come out with new content. But
You don't want to miss us.
definitely not. But until next time, we will see you later.
Bye.
I feel like I look even more Mexican with this one. I don't know why with a brown hat it does that.
It brings out your brown tone.
It does. And then my mustache has been extra. Mow your lawn lately.
Let's just face it, honey, you're Mexican. Embrace it.
Centered? Ish. Whatever.
Can
Can you fix it for me? Is there any way you can make me look like halfway decent? Why don't you take care of me ever? It's not a good look, Cole. It's not gonna get subscribers. This ain't gonna work. I'm gonna go throw some water on my hair.
Here.
This is bad. There we go. That's so much better.
Okay, let's do this.
Hi, I'm Anthony.
And I'm Nicole.
And this is
Life with Twins. I don't know how to stop this. Ooh, I think I can rock the hat. Now we're going to talk about our embryos. I can make everything look good. Even snoring. Apparently, in pregnancy, I snore a lot. And it sounds like I can't breathe. More than likely, we're going to sit down and get ready to shoot this video. And then our pizza's going to come. And then you'll have to look at us like, we just ate a whole bunch of pizza. Yeah. Because it takes him 5 hours to do anything. But I love him.
Hi, I'm Anthony.
And I'm Nicole.
And this is
Life with Twins.
On last week's episode, we talked about our egg retrieval and
The
how
pizza
many.
guy's here.
We cannot shoot this freaking episode.